Good morning, everyone, and I welcome you all to the international webinar on fisheries management. And this is a kind of series of webinar we are organizing from the Department of Marine Science and Fisheries, Sultan Qaboos University. This is the webinar number 2, and I welcome Dr. Rishi Sharma, who is the speaker of the day. And I just introduced Dr. Rishi to all of you. Then I will open the floor to Rishi, and he will talk about a new stock index, and that will be basically a new index that developed for the global fishery stock. So welcome Rishi, Dr. Rishi Sharma. He did his all bachelor, MS and PhD from US. He was globally renowned fisheries stock assessment scientist. So he's now working as a senior fisheries officer in Pau, Rome, Italy. Before that, he worked in NOAA. NOAA, he worked there is 3-4 years, and he worked on the highly migratory species stock. And then before that, he worked in IOTC, Indian Ocean Tuna Commission also. He also worked in Bay of Bengal large marine ecosystem that is also under the umbrella of FAO. And so he was really a good scientist that leading the global fish stock. So I welcome Rishi, and I open the floor to Dr. Rishi Sharma.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I thank you, Sachidanandan. I am happy to be here, and I will give you a big overview of what I'm currently working on and how we do our global assessments to figure out how overfishing is progressing globally, if we are improving or getting worse over time. How much time do I have, Dr.
There is no limit, so maximum 1 hour. We can
Okay.
extend, 1.5 hours.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Yes. Yes. You can hide the stop sharing, hide. Yeah. This one go.
Okay, you can see my screen clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes. All good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me close my door.
Yeah.
So how many of you are aware of this report taken out by FAO every 2 years? Are you all familiar with this? So
Yes, Sophia.
yeah, so this report is taken out biannually, and in this report we look at different regions of the world and assess how overfishing is progressing. This was set up in the mid 1970s in the UN General Assembly, and it was primarily to address law of the sea and UN fish stocks agreement to assess how things are progressing globally and how we want to optimize the utilization of uh, marine resources. This also established a baseline of conditions globally, and from that, you could sort of see how things are progressing or getting worse. And the man who really did this back then was John Gulland. You may be familiar with him, his name. He has done a lot of work which is quite uh, groundbreaking in his time. And basically, this was another thing which he set up back in mid 1970s. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we currently do, and then what we are transitioning into, and then how the two methods compare. If you look at the globe, the world, we have basically 18 areas that we assess how things are going globally. In the Pacific, we have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven areas. In the Indian Ocean, three areas. In the Atlantic, seven areas. So basically, globally, and then we have the Arctic and then the Kevlar Southern Ocean territories. And these areas are tracked every year, every 2 years, whether things are getting better or worse. And then the global index is summing all the assessments that we do in each area to come up with what's happening in one area. And so this is the last assessment that was done in 2022. And what it shows is how things are progressing globally. And you can see sustainable is stocks which are, maximally utilized, or underfished we call sustainable, and then stocks which are overfished are unsustainable. And so things are not looking so good in the northeast, northwest Pacific. Things are much better in the northeast Pacific, and the Mediterranean is not looking good. It's the worst here. In other parts of the world, it's around 40 to 50% of the stocks overfished. But there are some good stories in the Pacific. Only 15% overfished here and here, and in some other parts of the world, only, you know, uh, 20-25% overfish. So, and globally, you can see this trend, what was started by Gulland in 1974, how things have changed over time. And you can see basically we started with somewhere like 9 to 10% overfished, and now we are at around 34% overfished. So, and it's kind of smoothing out now. It's fluctuated at that level between 30 to 34% for the last, decade or so. And, in the previous figure that we showed, that showed basically the size of the landings. So you see the largest landings are in the Pacific here. These two areas account for almost 50% of the global landings. Now you see the same size here, and that's primarily because each area is equally important. So we can't say that, the North Pacific here is more important than the Mediterranean or the Indian Ocean. All areas are equally important for their unique biodiversity and unique stock characteristics for a lot of what you people are interested in. It's Area 51 uh, in the southwest Indian Ocean. So Oman is out here, and this area has roughly 38% overfished. Um, so currently, what we do is there are three different steps. We have data collected, we do an assessment, and then we report. But each of these steps we are trying to improve now. And it's quite a simple process. We have a inference based on a reference list of stocks. We collate the data for selected stocks. We apply the methodology for the classification, and then we compute the indicator, which is percent of stocks at some level. Um, so the current methodology, we have 445 stocks, and they are assessed by regional fish bodies, but there are some percentage of them which we have no information on, and we use expert listation methods. There are also issues of whether some of these stocks are representative of the region, so we are trying to revise this list currently. We use this expert elicitation, and then everything is equally weighted. But because we use expert elicitation, there's no standardized way, and it's not transparent, and it's difficult to replicate. Um, there's a limited coverage of stocks. May not be adequate representation, and what we are using primarily is from the commercial fisheries. There are subsistence fisheries, the artisanal fisheries, which are a lot more difficult to quantify, and not much is used there. And everything is done here in Rome, and we have other processes in Rome which may give us a slightly different estimate of what's happening globally. So we want to standardize all these and not have three different processes. The selection unit of assessment is going to be revised. We need a lot more standardized methods which are transparent. We need to engage with the regions of the world. This is going to be time consuming, but we are doing it. And as said, we don't have any standardized things. There's sea around us and Mindaroo and other processes which are doing a similar approach and are criticizing FAO, so we have to get a lot better. So now what are we doing? We are trying to improve on the data collection. We want to use all stocks assessed, and we want to make this consistent with Sustainable Development Goal 1441 on what we use. We have different categories of data where we have actual assessments done in a region. We have unassessed stocks, but we may have landings and some external data, so we can run our own assessment. And then we have a weight of evidence approach, which is more qualitative analysis, looking at economic, social, interview indicators. So these three categories are new categories, and then we will be applying assessment based on either reported data and reported assessment, reported data that no assessments there, but we'll run it, or a qualitative indicator-based weight of evidence approach. We will also look at a weighted versus not weighted index, and as said, we will do three different tiers of how we do this. One, it's a reported assessment. Two, it's we call it SRA plus, stock reduction analysis plus. This is not a catch-only model because we need auxiliary data on either effort or a CPUE or a survey to help the model converge. And then the tier 3 is limited data and auxiliary info, so expert judgment. We will also have a new edition of our documentation, which people can then refer to. Hasn't been updated since 2011, and we are trying to replicate everything within GitHub, so it's fully transparent and replicable for the tier 2, what we describe here. So people can replicate this, and the tier 3 is based on reported data. So you all may have seen this kind of illustration before. And what is overfished? We have uh, the Kobe plot reference framework, which is spawning biomass on the x-axis, fishing mortality on the y-axis. These are all relative to some target. So if it's 1, so it's current biomass divided by some target biomass. And normally that target biomass is SMSY. Fishing mortality also current mortality by target mortality, and target mortality again FMSY. So if you are exceeding the BMSY, then the ratio is greater than 1. If you're less than BMSY, then you're below what your target is, which is not good. If you're above it, it's good. With fishing mortality, um, what can you say? If you're greater than 1, is it good or bad? I'm asking this question.
Yes, bad.
Why is it bad?
Because it's overfished, so fishing effort is more, so that's why the mortality will be more.
Yeah, so your target is supposed to be around 1.
Yeah.
And in the case of biomass, if it's greater than 1, it's good. But in the case of fishing mortality, you have to be below that target, not above it. So you're fishing too much. And so we use this to quantify in a temporal trend how things progress. And normally a fishery starts with everything fine, and then because of uh, you know how the fishery progresses, effort increases, overfishing starts happening, stocks get depleted, they're overfished, you have to do some management action, and things start recovering and hopefully rebuild the stock. So this is the quadrant you want to be in. Now, when we do our FAO categorization, we don't really look at the y-axis. Our categorization is based entirely on the x-axis. So if SMSY is between zero point 0.8 and 1.2, the ratio, then we say it's optimally fished. And the reason is that MSY is difficult to estimate, so we have given a buffer of zero point 0.2 on each side. And this is where you really want to have your fishery operate for food optimization, what FAO is all about, maximizing available food nutrition to people all over the world. So you want to maximize the utilization. If it's below zero point 0.8 of BMSY, then we say it's overfished. And if it's greater than 1.2 of BMSY, we say it's underfished. So we are doing all this now in a very open, transparent framework. We are using standardized modular structures and scripts. And all this is available on GitHub to try and replicate these analysis for different areas. So the data, the software is all archived here, and then the scripts are here. We use R and R Studio to run all this. This is how the design looks. and you can clone it, and then you can run it based on what you do. Okay. Uh, we also archiving all this in a database now, so people can see um, the analysis and extract what they need out of it. And the new method, as I said, we don't use catch MSY at all. We need effort. And um, Russo et al. Took out a paper in PNAS about 4 years ago where they have this global effort series, which we can try and use, for different parts of the world. So here are some results from the Mediterranean. We took a bunch of new data sets by different coastal, demersal, pelagic, cods, herring type of life history. And then we applied the new methodology where we went from 35 stocks to, in this right hand quadrant, we went to something like 230 stocks. So we now have a lot more resolution, and it went from 65% overfished to 72% overfished. This is the Caribbean. We did a similar analysis. We added, from the previous assessment did about 45 stocks. Now we have 99 stocks, and we went from 39% overfished to 33% overfished. In the Northeast Indian Ocean, we went from, I think, 39 stocks to 335 stocks. And using again this tier 1, tier 2 methodology, and we went from 31% overfished to 29% overfished. And here's the temporal trends of what's happening. And for the tier 2 stocks in this area, the trend is showing that the fishing mortality is really getting high, and the biomass is tending to get lower for the whole aggregate. This is a state space model smoothing these trends, though it's starting to improve in the latter years. In the region that you all are in, Area 51, the Southwest Indian Ocean, we've tried this approach, and it says 50% of the stock is overfished as opposed to 36% based on the same algorithm that I showed you. But then when we add more stocks, these are the current trend, and the fishing mortality is going up, the biomass is going down. But if we add more stocks, we have another 138 stocks in this region. We get slightly better results, maybe 60%, 55% are fully fished, and maybe 45% overfished. When we add that new tier 2 to the current assessment, what happens is we see that the new assessment says about 30% overfished and 72%, 29% overfished, 71% sustainably fished. And this is what the new data trends say. So the BMSY is improving, but the FMSY is also increasing. And in this region, we go from 36% overfished to about 29% overfished. In South America, region 41, we went from 15 stock aggregates to something like, I think we have now total of 59 stocks plus 9 tier 2 Brazil, so 68 stocks. And it didn't change much. We were at 40% overfishing, and it's now 39.5% overfishing. And Area 34, which is Gulf of Guinea, West Africa, um, things look, different ways of doing this. If you use a weighted approach, um, with tier one, tier two being treated differently, it's around 50% overfished. But if we look at by landings or MSY potential landings weighted by size of stock, then it's about 65% overfished. So in the old report, it was around 40% overfished, but now we are saying it's around 50% overfished. But if you look at it by landings, it's closer to 65% overfished. And here's what happens with the extra new stocks we are looking at in that region. You can see the biomass trend is really declining, and this is probably due to some environmental effect, that recruitment is failing. So this fishing mortality is increasing, but not enough to cause that decline. Finally, so this is all evidence-based, it's transparent, it's replicable, it's consultative, and we get buy-in from the countries of this region because we do a consultative process. We have currently built capacity, we've talked to people, we've trained them with a virtual lab where we actually run all this, and so people can understand how to do it in person as well as virtually. We've consulted with 63 countries. We've moved from, in these areas that I showed you, 189 aggregate stocks to 1,093 finer resolution stocks. Japanese money has helped achieve some goals for this. They have supported training for people in South America and in your region in Southwest Indian Ocean. And we are planning to do, Area 47 and 71 next, and then 77 and 87 after that. So at which point we would have completed most of the world. 21, 27, we don't really update because these are all assessments done. 67 is all assessments done. 81 is all assessments done. So we are close to completing this work by end of next year. So anyway, that's all I have. Any questions for people?
Yeah, thank you, Rishi, for a nice talk about the global stock. And if anyone have any questions, then you may ask Rishi. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, if not, then I have a few questions. So that first of all, that are you applying the approach that is newly developed, that CMSY methods?
No, I don't believe in CMSY. CMSY is very misleading. So I highly recommend not to use CMSY. This approach uses catch along with an index of abundance or a survey or effort.
Yeah.
It's not a catch only model.
Okay. And for I found that in West Pacific, basically the South American West Pacific region, that was mostly stock was mostly overexploited, means Peruvian coast. Okay, so that is the number maximum overexploited. If I go to you on your first graph,
Okay,
so
I'll share my screen real quick. So,
yes, if you see 87, I think it's 87. Yes.
uh, yeah, this was a weird thing because of the Peruvian anchoveta which failed. They have a big effect in this region. Yes,
Climate
so you're right.
or environment, yeah. And so
But
and
Mediterranean may be worse because it's now saying about 28, so 72%. This is about 65, but this may have improved
mm,
quite a bit.
and so the approach is only the data that you are gathering from the global input, that the only the catch, or how you get the effort and how do you standardize the effort.
I told you there's this study that I'm using, which has a global database here. So this is the paper, Evolution of Global Marine Fishing Fleets Response to Fish Resources. This has a globalized effort series, which is standardized by vessel capacity and power and engine power, and that is
Mm,
what is being used by all fleets, artisanal and industrial and semi-industrial fleets. So the engine power is basically the standardization method. So, and that's what we are using for effort. But there is also localized effort signals.
mm,
So, like in in this is why it's an iterative process, right? I start this with the global effort, but say in South America when we did it,
mm,
in Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, they brought their own standardized effort series and their own stocks to do the analysis. So, or they had a survey, index of abundance, which we used in our analysis as well. So there are two different ways of doing it. Similarly, in Western Africa and Gulf of Guinea, people had localized. We have a research vessel called the Nansen, which goes out here and does surveys, and that was used as an index of abundance for some species. So it depends on the area and how much information is there. If there is localized data, we apply it. If there's no localized data, then we use the global effort data from this study.
yeah, and any projection for the region wise the global stock.
It's around 35% overfished, so globally. So you know, not really improving, but not getting drastically worse either. So.
Yes, any more questions from the audience? Yes.
Hi. I'm kind of. I have a very fundamental question because I don't understand most of this. Sorry. Uh, so when I do, so I'm from India, and I kind of have been doing literature review of a lot of bycatch related research papers and also some shark. related papers. So the thing is, most of the data is recorded either in tons or it's in percentage or it's in individual numbers. So I've been struggling with how to standardize it. Like, any suggestions or how I should go about this?
Um, Numbers, you could use average weight of the species that you're looking at and then apply that. But normally, tonnage is sort of the way to standardize it. But if you have numbers, then you would have to apply some assumption on the average weight and then apply it and estimate it that way.
Ah, okay, thank you. I had one more question. So in your one of your graph, you also show underfished, right? Somewhere around point 0.2. How did you get that? Because is it like you identified prime fishing fish ecosystems, and then no fishing happened, and then you record it? How did you go about that?
No,
And
no. So underfished doesn't mean that there is no fishing happening. You
okay,
basically you do a model-based assessment where you actually take the data and run whatever integrated assessment or a surplus production model or length-based approach, whatever you are using. But if it's greater than 1.2, the B over BMSY from your assessment, then it's underfished.
Yes, there is a query from Dr. Khalid.
Yes. First of all, thank you for this presentation, Dr. Sharma. My question is about our area. It is Area 51. You said that 62.5% of the area is sustainable. Is that means that we are still in our area is healthy? Is any precaution action needed to manage this area?
Yeah, so you're talking about Western Indian Ocean here. So
51.
Area 51. And the new estimate I'm coming up with is around 30%.
29.
So 70% is overfished, 30%. But what we are reporting, you're right, 64%, 36%. Yeah, obviously, this is not very good. You need to improve the management and the effectiveness so that you bring this number down to
15.
10%, 15%. You need to reduce this. So
You mean that we need to make a study for this area, or like
sorry, I can't hear you very well. Sorry, can you repeat?
For this area, do you think that we need to make a study to manage this area, or to see to make a plan for the management of this area with the cooperation with?
I mean, this area is very complex area. So if you look at this area, it has, many countries. So it has Southwest Indian Ocean territories, which are about, Tanzania, Mozambique, Kenya, Somalia, South Africa, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, Seychelles, Comoros. Then you have Oman, Iran, Iraq, UAE. Then you have Egypt in the Red Sea area. Then you have Pakistan, India, Maldives, all this, many countries. So it's not so easy to say we need to improve in 51. You need to improve in all these countries, right? So then you can have an effect on 51. But right now, we don't have any mechanism to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sharma.
Yeah, any more question? I thought from type there is a question on the chat that what will be the alternatives to meet the need of the fish to the people?
Sorry, I can't understand that. Can you share the question with me?
Yeah, on chat, if you go to the chat, there is one question.
Okay, just give me a second. I'm trying to find it.
Yes, on the last one.
Needs of fish for the people. I mean, I don't need, I think you really need to define what the people's needs are in the region, and then protein needs, maybe you can meet it with a combination of fisheries and aquaculture, but you know, with just fisheries, it may be not possible to do it. You may need some surplus production from aquaculture, and even if you can cut back a bit on the fishing, then you can also maybe optimize, increase your yield, because you're fishing too hard currently. So,
but I have one question that the aquaculture to means capture to culture fishery. So in India, last 10 years or 20 years, if you look that the scenario is totally swept from culture to captured. So mean 40 to 60, so now 60-40. So 60% is cultured. So India is much more reliable on the aquaculture. So whether is the Indian stock is improved?
I don't think so. Indian stock has not improved, no.
But the data from the government of India is showing that they are go more on the aquaculture 60% and the capture fisheries is less than 40%.
Yeah, so that may be, maybe because the fisheries production is getting worse because of overfishing. When you look at a ratio, if the aquaculture production remains stable, but because of overfishing, the landings is going down, it can have that trend, right? If I'm catching originally 80 tons from fisheries and I have 60 tons from aquaculture, it will show me 60-40. But then all of a sudden, if I go to 40 tons from fisheries and 60 tons from aquaculture, nothing changed, but the fisheries declined, the landings from capture production declined, then it will show me that 60% is now coming from aquaculture. But the overall production has declined, not increased.
Exactly.
So the proportion can be very misleading, really, because you have to look at the overall tonnage, right? If you just say, oh, now we are producing 60% aquaculture, but 2 years ago you had 120,000 tons, now you have 100,000 tons. That means you're declining in your production, overall production, and your fisheries production is getting lower. So, and either that is because of governance or because of overfishing. We don't know why.
And from this region, if you look the Middle East or the GCC country, they are much more means they are putting a lot of effort and a lot of money on aquaculture to improve it. And whether, but the thing is that in this region, so last 4-5 years, the increase of small pelagic is enormous. So almost I can say the 50% of catch is small pelagic, and that is increasing. Just like sardine catch we have seen in Oman last 4 years is I think 6 to 8 times is increase. So is it a global effects on the climate to the small pelagics that is given a huge impact on the global stock?
Well, we don't really know that because the last assessment done in Oman was 10 years ago. So um, the sardine production increased 4 to 8 times. Maybe the effort is becoming much larger than before. They are now trying to increase the production from that fishery from dhows to more semi-industrial fleet. So I don't know the dynamics of what you are talking. So, you know, without looking at everything, looking at age composition, looking at recruitment dynamics, I can't say whether climate is increasing the abundance of sardine or is it the fisheries hitting the sardine more. You don't know. So you
Yes.
have to really decompose it and you need to run a new assessment for the stock in that region before you can say anything. So.
Yeah. So if how have any program so we can jointly develop and look at the big data because we have almost 30 years or even 35 years time series data from this region.
My colleague actually has been working with Oman, Marcelo Vasconcelos, and he might be able to help on this because I think they were recommending to do a new assessment, but it hasn't been done as yet. So I don't know if Oman government would want to do that or not. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So any more questions from the audience? So it's a kind of little bit of complex and I think the most of the audience is not related to directly to the in the deep of the fisheries, so it's a little bit of complex talk. So yeah, anyhow, I think if there is no questions, then we'll close the session and we'll any more comments or questions? No. Okay, then we'll close the session and thank you, Dr. Rishi, for your time, and thank you all for participate the webinar, and we think that we will be arrange another one on the next time, and yes, thank you all, and you will get the
Thank you, sir.
certificate
Thank you.
online. Yeah, you will get the certificate online, and thank you, Dr. Rishi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sachidanand.
Yeah.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, I'm closing the session.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
I will put you in touch with Marcelo,
Yes,
Sachidanand.
of course.
Because then if we have the data, we can look at this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. You have effort data as well?
Yes.
Okay. I can also help you on.
Okay, that's good.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. See you. Bye.